The annual Johnson family reunion was held at Golden Fork's flagship restaurant in downtown Chicago, just like it had been for the past 7 years. 300 family members gathered in the private dining room upstairs, surrounded by the warm mahogany paneling and crystal chandeliers that had made Golden Fork Enterprises the most successful restaurant chain in the Midwest. I was sitting at table 12, picking at my salmon, when my father decided to deliver his traditional assessment of my life choices. The dessert course had just been served, Golden Fork's signature chocolate soufflé, and Dad was feeling expansive after his third glass of wine. "You know what I love about these reunions?" he announced to our table of 8. "Getting to see how the family business has grown. Look around this room. This is what real success looks like." My cousin Derek, who managed Golden Fork's marketing department, raised his glass. "To Grandpa Joe's vision. 23 restaurants across 4 states, and we're just getting started." Everyone toasted enthusiastically. My Aunt Rebecca, who handled Golden Fork's human resources, beamed with pride. "The expansion into Ohio has been incredible. We're opening 3 new locations this quarter alone." My Uncle Mike, Golden Fork CEO, stood up to address the entire room. "Family, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. Golden Fork isn't just a business, it's a legacy. Built by Johnsons, run by Johnsons, owned by Johnsons." Applause filled the dining room. Several cousins whistled and cheered. Then Uncle Mike's gaze fell on me. "Of course, not everyone in the family chooses the entrepreneurial path. Some people prefer simpler careers." The table turned to look at me. I was wearing my usual family reunion outfit, a simple black dress from Target and flats from Payless. My job as a library assistant at the Chicago Public Library System wasn't exactly the kind of career that impressed the Golden Fork dynasty. Dad seized the moment. "Take my daughter Emily here. 28 years old, and she's never shown any interest in business whatsoever. Content to stamp books and process returns for the rest of her life." My cousin Sarah, who managed Golden Fork's finances, laughed. "Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business, Uncle Tom. It takes a special kind of person to build something meaningful." Dad nodded sagely. "Exactly. Emily's always been more of a follower than a leader. Some people are just built for service jobs." I continued eating my soufflé while the conversation swirled around me. This was familiar territory. Every family gathering for the past decade had included some variation of this discussion. "The restaurant business requires vision," Uncle Mike continued. "Strategic thinking. Risk assessment. Financial planning. You have to understand market dynamics, consumer psychology, operational efficiency." Derek jumped in. "Plus the ability to manage complex investor relationships. Golden Fork wouldn't exist without our sophisticated funding structure." I almost choked on my chocolate soufflé. Dad leaned back in his chair, warming to his theme. "That's what I've been trying to explain to Emily for years. Business isn't for everyone. It requires a certain mindset. A certain ambition." Aunt Rebecca nodded sympathetically. "Some people are just more comfortable in supporting roles. There's nothing wrong with that. Libraries are important too." The condescension was so thick you could cut it with a dinner knife. My cousin Kevin, who ran Golden Fork's purchasing department, raised his glass again. "To the family members who chose the entrepreneurial path. Who understood that building wealth requires taking risks." More applause. More toasts to their collective business genius. Finally, Dad turned to me directly. "Emily, you should really think about your future. Library work is fine for now, but there's no growth potential. No wealth building. You'll never amount to anything in business if you don't take some initiative." The entire table was looking at me expectantly, waiting for me to acknowledge my limitations, perhaps ask for advice on how to improve my prospects. I put down my fork and smiled. "You're absolutely right, Dad. I should probably leave the success to my cousins." Everyone seemed satisfied with this response. Several family members nodded approvingly. Kevin actually patted my shoulder. "That's good self-awareness, Emily. Not everyone can be an entrepreneur." I excused myself to use the restroom and walked through the dining room, past tables full of family members celebrating their collective success. The Golden Fork staff was moving efficiently between tables, serving coffee and clearing dessert plates. What none of them knew was that I'd been watching their operations very carefully for 7 years. Every menu change, every location expansion, every staffing decision. Because while my family saw me as the simple librarian who couldn't understand business complexity, I'd actually been Golden Fork's largest investor since 2016. Through a network of investment vehicles managed by Meridian Capital Partners, I own 78% of Golden Fork Enterprises. The initial investment had been $50 million from my inheritance, money my grandmother had left me in a trust that my father had somehow never learned about. Over 7 years, as Golden Fork expanded and grew, my position had increased to $200 million. Every major decision the family had made about their restaurant chain had ultimately been approved by my representatives on Golden Fork's board of directors. Every expansion, every renovation, every strategic initiative had been funded with my money while my father explained to relatives why I'd never amount to anything in business. I called my fund manager, Patricia Chin, from the restaurant's bathroom. Patricia, it's Emily. I need to initiate liquidation procedures for the Golden Fork Enterprises position. Emily, that's a significant holding. Are you certain about this timing? The Q3 numbers look very strong. I'm certain. I want everything pulled. Complete liquidation within 30 days. There was a pause. This will trigger the majority shareholder dissolution clause. The board will need to be notified immediately. Are you prepared for that level of exposure? I thought about my father's voice explaining to the table why I'd never amount to anything in business. I'm prepared. Send the notifications. Emily, I have to point out that this decision will essentially destroy the company. Golden Fork's operational capital comes entirely from your funding structure. Without continued investment, they'll be insolvent within 60 days. I understand the implications. This seems like an emotional response to something. Maybe we should schedule a meeting to discuss. Patricia, I've been monitoring Golden Fork's financial metrics for 2 years. Their expansion rate is unsustainable. They're opening new locations faster than they can train competent management. Customer satisfaction scores have been declining across all markets. They're spending money like they have unlimited access to capital, which was true until today. This was all accurate. While my family celebrated their business acumen, they'd been making increasingly poor operational decisions. Too much expansion, too little quality control, too many hired managers who didn't understand Golden Fork service standards. If you're certain, Patricia said, I'll begin the liquidation process. The board notification will go out within 2 hours. Perfect. And Patricia? Make sure the documentation clearly identifies that this decision comes from Thames River Holdings. I want the board to understand exactly who's been funding their operations. Thames River Holdings. Tearage Tom's Rebecca's Holdings, named after my parents. A little joke I'd been enjoying privately for 7 years. I returned to the dining room where dessert was winding down and coffee was being served. The family was still discussing Golden Fork's bright future. The Nashville expansion is going to be huge, Derek was saying. We've identified 12 prime locations for the next 18 months. Uncle Mike nodded enthusiastically. The Southeast market has been underserved for fine dining chains. Golden Fork is positioned to dominate that space. I sat down and sipped my coffee while they planned their empire's continued growth with money that would disappear in approximately 48 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Board notification sent. Expect response within 4 to 6 hours. The reunion concluded around 10 p.m. with the traditional group photo in front of Golden Fork's logo. 300 family members arranged in rows, all smiling proudly in front of the restaurant that represented their collective success. I stood in the back row, next to my cousins who managed various aspects of the business they thought they owned. The next morning, I was reshelving returns in the library's fiction section when my phone started ringing. Uncle Mike. I let it go to voicemail. Then Derek called. Then Aunt Rebecca. By lunchtime, I had 11 missed calls and 14 text messages. Uncle Mike's voicemail. Emily, something very strange has happened. Our primary investor has pulled out of Golden Fork. I don't understand what's going on, but we need to have an emergency family meeting. Derek's text. Have you heard about the Golden Fork situation? Someone called Thames River Holdings just liquidated their entire position. We're trying to figure out who they are. Aunt Rebecca's voicemail. Emily, I know you're not involved in the business side of things, but we're having a crisis with our funding. Can you call me back? I deleted the messages and continued with my work. The afternoon children's reading program was starting in an hour, and I needed to set up the activity stations. At 3 p.m. while I was reading Green Eggs and Ham to 15 preschoolers, my phone buzzed with an emergency text from Dad. Family meeting tonight 7 p.m. at Mike's house. Golden Fork emergency. Everyone must attend. I typed back, I have to work late tonight. Library inventory. Dad responded immediately, this is more important than books, Emily. The family business is in crisis. I'm not part of the family business, remember? You said I should leave the success to my cousins. He didn't respond to that. The emergency meeting happened without me, but I got updates throughout the week from various family members who couldn't believe I wasn't more concerned about Golden Fork's situation. Mom called Wednesday morning. Emily, your father is beside himself. Apparently this Thames River Holdings company owned most of Golden Fork and just decided to sell everything. No warning, no negotiation. They have 60 days to find new funding or close all the restaurants. That sounds complicated, I said. I'm sure Uncle Mike will figure something out. He's very good at business. But where are they going to find $200 million in 60 days? And why would an investor just walk away from a profitable company? I thought about how to answer that. Maybe they had reasons we don't understand. Thursday, Derek called. Emily, I know you're not involved in the restaurant business, but do you know anyone who might be interested in investing in Golden Fork? We're reaching out to everyone we can think of. I don't really move in investment circles, Derek. I'm just a librarian, remember? Right, but maybe through the library system? Maybe some of your patrons are business people. I almost laughed. I'll keep an ear out. Friday afternoon, Uncle Mike himself called. Emily, I'm going to ask you something that might sound crazy. But Thames River Holdings. Those initials are TRH. Your parents' names are Tom and Rebecca. Is there any chance? I mean, this is going to sound insane. But is there any chance you know something about this company? I was quiet for a long moment. Uncle Mike, that does sound insane. Where would I get $200 million to invest in restaurants? I know. It's just that the timing is so strange. The liquidation happened the day after the reunion, right after. He trailed off. Right after what? Right after your father made those comments about your career choices. You think I destroyed the family business because Dad hurt my feelings? No, of course not. I told you it was crazy. I'm just grasping at straws here. 2 weeks later, Golden Fork Enterprises filed for bankruptcy protection. Without Thames River Holdings' continued funding, they couldn't maintain operations across 23 locations. The restaurants began closing one by one, starting with the newest locations that hadn't yet established strong customer bases. The family was devastated. Uncle Mike had to lay off more than 400 employees. Derek, Sarah, and Kevin all lost their management positions. Aunt Rebecca had to liquidate her retirement savings to cover personal expenses. Dad called me 3 times during this period, each conversation more desperate than the last. Emily, I don't understand how this happened. We had such a strong business model. We were profitable. We had expansion plans. Maybe the investor had other priorities, I suggested. But who just walks away from a profitable restaurant chain? It doesn't make business sense. I wouldn't know, Dad. I don't understand business complexity, remember? The final blow came 6 weeks after the reunion. The Chicago Tribune ran an article about Golden Fork's bankruptcy. Local restaurant chain collapses after major investor withdrawal. The article included interviews with several family members who expressed confusion about Thames River Holdings' motivations. Uncle Mike was quoted, "We never understood why they decided to liquidate. The company was profitable and growing. It seemed like a purely arbitrary decision." Derek added, "Thames River Holdings never communicated with us directly. Everything went through lawyers and fund managers. We still don't know who they really were or why they walked away." I read the article during my lunch break at the library, sitting in the staff room with my sandwich and coffee. That evening, Dad called one final time. "Emily, I need to ask you something and I want you to be completely honest with me." "Okay." At the reunion, when I was talking about your career, when I said you'd never amount to anything in business, were you upset about that? I thought carefully about how to answer. "Dad, you've been saying things like that my entire adult life. If I got upset every time you dismissed my potential, I'd never stop being upset. But this time was different. This time was in front of the whole family. In front of everyone. It was." And the next day our investor pulled out. Coincidences happen. There was a long silence. Emily, Thames River Holdings. TRH, Tom and Rebecca's initials. I noticed that too. Is there something you're not telling me? I looked around my small apartment at the library books stacked on my coffee table, at the simple furniture I'd bought from IKEA. The apartment that cost me $1,200 a month while I had $47 million sitting in various investment accounts. Dad, you've spent 10 years explaining to everyone that I don't understand business. That I'm not ambitious enough for entrepreneurship. That I should leave success to my cousins. Why would you think I'd be capable of secretly owning a restaurant chain? Because I'm starting to think I might have been wrong about you. This was the first time in my adult life that my father had admitted being wrong about anything related to my capabilities. What makes you think that? Because someone with enough money to destroy a $200 million company overnight would have to be very, very smart. And very, very patient. And very, very strategic. I didn't respond immediately. Emily, are you Thames River Holdings? I set down my coffee and walked to my window looking out at the Chicago skyline. In the distance, I could see the building that had housed Golden Fork's corporate headquarters until they'd lost their lease last week. Dad, if I were Thames River Holdings, that would mean I'd spent 7 years secretly funding the family business while you told everyone I was too stupid to understand entrepreneurship. Yes. That would mean I sat through dozens of family gatherings listening to you mock my career while I was actually the person paying everyone's salaries. Yes. That would mean I have access to the kind of money and financial expertise that you've always said I was too simple to understand. Yes. And that would mean you've been completely wrong about my capabilities for my entire adult life. There was a very long silence. Finally, Dad said, Emily, are you Thames River Holdings? Dad, what do you think? Another silence. Then, I think I owe you the biggest apology of my life. Yes, you do. And I think I've been an idiot. Yes, you have. And I think you just taught me the most expensive lesson I've ever learned. I smiled, looking out at the city lights. Business lessons are always expensive, Dad. The good ones anyway. 3 months later, the family was still recovering from Golden Fork's collapse. Most of my cousins had found new jobs, though none at the management level they'd been accustomed to. Uncle Mike was working as a consultant for other restaurant chains, trying to rebuild his professional reputation. Dad and I started having monthly dinners together, just the two of us. We never talked directly about Thames River Holdings, but the dynamic between us had changed completely. He asked about my work at the library with genuine interest. He asked about my thoughts on business news and financial markets. He treated me like someone whose opinions mattered. During one of these dinners he said, Emily, I've been thinking about what happened with Golden Fork. Oh. About whether the family could have done anything differently. Whether we could have maintained the relationship with our investor. I thought about this. Probably. Investors usually want to feel valued and respected. They want to know that their contributions are appreciated. Instead of taken for granted. Dad nodded slowly. Good investors are hard to find. Smart money doesn't just disappear without reason. Usually not. So if a family had an investor who'd been supporting them for years, they should probably treat that person very well. Probably. Even if that person seemed unassuming on the surface. Especially if that person seemed unassuming on the surface. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Dad said, Emily, I don't know if you'll ever tell me the complete truth about what happened with Golden Fork. Maybe someday. But I want you to know that regardless of what the truth is, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of your work at the library. I'm proud of your intelligence. I'm proud of your strategic thinking abilities. I smiled. Thank you, Dad. And if you ever decide to get involved in business ventures in the future, I hope you'll consider letting your old man participate. Maybe as a junior partner. Someone who listens more and talks less. I thought about this offer. About whether our relationship was ready for that level of partnership. I'll keep that in mind, I said. 6 months later I made my first open investment under my own name. A small independent bookstore in my neighborhood that was struggling with rent increases. Emily Johnson, investor and strategic advisor. The owner, Mrs. Chin, was surprised when I offered to help. Are you sure you understand the retail book business? It's quite complex. I smiled. I'm a quick learner. The bookstore thrived under new management and expanded to include a cafe and event space. Mrs. Chen often told customers that her success was due to finding the right investor at the right time. Someone who understood the business and treated me with respect, she'd say. That's the most important thing in any partnership. And sometimes when Dad visited the bookstore, I'd catch him smiling as he listened to Mrs. Chen explain her business philosophy. He never said anything, but I could tell he was connecting the dots between my approach to investing and whatever lessons he'd learned from the Golden Fork experience. Because the best business lessons are the ones that teach you to recognize talent and wisdom wherever you find it. Even in the people you thought you understood completely.
You'll never see them again. Amanda's voice crackled over the phone, full of satisfaction. They're better off with me. You were never a good mother. My grip tightened on the phone as I looked at the empty beds where my twins, Lily and Lucas, should have been. Their favorite stuffed animals, a blue elephant and a purple giraffe, were gone too. Even in their panic, they had taken their comfort toys. Amanda, where are my children? I forced my voice to stay calm, though fear squeezed my chest. The house felt too quiet without them. Oh, now you care, she mocked. After I found those bruises, my blood turned cold. What bruises? What are you talking about? The ones you gave them, she snapped. I showed the family pictures. That's why no one stopped me when I took them. They all know what you are. My mind raced. A few hours ago, we had all been at my in-laws' house for a celebration. I had stepped away for a few minutes. When I came back, the twins and Amanda were gone. Those bruises are from gymnastics, I said. You saw them practicing their cartwheels. She laughed, sharp and cruel. Keep telling yourself that. I've been keeping records. The police will see the truth soon enough. I closed my eyes. Now it made sense. Amanda had been watching too closely, taking pictures of every little bump, asking questions. She had been planning this. Why are you doing this? Because you don't deserve them, she hissed. Or this house. Or my brother's money. You were just lucky, but your luck's run out. My late husband Mark's words echoed in my mind. He had warned me about his sister before he died 2 years ago. Amanda's possessive. She thinks she owns everything in my life. I should have listened more carefully. The twins need me, I said. They must be scared. They're fine, she said, sending a picture. It showed Lily and Lucas on an unfamiliar couch, eating ice cream, their faces tear-streaked but trying to smile. Their stuffed animals were beside them. Hope flickered in my chest. Let me talk to them, I demanded. No chance. And don't bother calling again. We'll be unreachable for a while. Amanda. She hung up. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking, but my mind was clear. Amanda thought she had won. She thought she had covered all her tracks. But she had made one mistake. She let them keep their toys. I hurried to my laptop and opened a tracking program. 6 months ago, after they got lost at the mall, I had some tiny GPS trackers into their stuffed animals. I had meant to keep track of the toys. But now, they would help me find my children. 2 blinking dots appeared on the map, moving north. Amanda was heading to her lake house. I picked up my phone and called David, my brother-in-law, who worked in law enforcement. David, Amanda took the twins. She's making false accusations against me. I was afraid of this, he sighed. She's been acting strange since Mark died. She's obsessed with them. I know where she's going, I said, but I need to do this the right way. I don't want her twisting it against me. Send me the tracking info, he said, his voice firm. I'll call the police and meet you there. Don't go alone. I quickly packed a bag for the twins. As I grabbed their blankets, I spotted Lily's open diary. On today's page, she had written, Aunt Amanda said she's taking us on a special trip, but I'm scared. She said mean things about Mommy that aren't true. I don't want to go. Tears stung my eyes as I took a picture of the page. Another piece of proof. Amanda thought she had everything planned. She thought I would give up. But she had underestimated me. As I grabbed my keys, a new message popped up on my phone. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you figure out where we are, it'll be too late. I smiled grimly. Oh, Amanda, I whispered, starting the car. I already know exactly where you're going. The GPS dots kept moving north. I followed at a safe distance. She thought she was in control. She thought she had won. She was wrong. The winding road to Amanda's lake house was dark and empty, perfect for someone trying to disappear with 2 scared children. I kept a safe distance, following the steady blink of the GPS tracker on my laptop. David's police cruiser trailed a few minutes behind me, its lights off to stay hidden. My phone buzzed with another message from Amanda. "The twins are asking about you. I told them you didn't want them anymore. Soon they'll forget all about you." I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. Through the speaker, David's voice crackled. "We're 10 minutes out. Local units are in position. Wait for the signal before moving in." The GPS dots had stopped. They were inside now, where Amanda thought she had them safe from me, but her perfect plan had more holes than she realized. I pulled over a quarter mile from the house and shut off my lights. The glow from an upstairs window made my chest tighten. Lily and Lucas were in there, scared and confused, no matter how much ice cream Amanda used to comfort them. Another text. "They finally stopped crying for you. Children are so adaptable, aren't they?" David's car pulled up behind mine. He approached my window. "We've got every exit covered. The judge signed the emergency order. We're good to go." "What about Amanda?" I asked. "She's unstable." "What if she—" "We'll handle her," David said. Then his expression darkened. "We found evidence on her phone. She's been planning this for months. Fake social media accounts, false documents. She even paid someone to fake those bruised photos." I wasn't surprised. Amanda was always calculating. "She blames me for Mark's death, doesn't she?" I asked. David sighed. "She thinks if you hadn't asked him to pick up the twins that night, he wouldn't have been on the road when the drunk driver hit him." The guilt I carried tried to crush me, but I forced it back. This wasn't about me. It was about getting my children home. Through my windshield, I saw shadows moving in the upstairs window. Lily and Lucas were awake. Their GPS dots shifted on my screen. "Look," I pointed. "They're in the front bedroom. That's where we shouled." A scream tore through the night. "Lily." I threw open my car door. David grabbed my arm. "Wait. We need tow." Another scream. Lucas this time. "No, we want Mommy." I ran, David and his team right behind me. Through an open window, I heard Amanda's voice. "Stop it. I'm your mother now. She doesn't love you like I do." The front door was locked, but an officer kicked it open. I raced up the stairs, my heart pounding. Inside the bedroom, Amanda stood between the twins, holding their stuffed animals, the ones with the trackers, over a trash can. "These are baby toys," she said. "You don't need them anymore. You don't need her anymore." David stepped forward, gun drawn, dropped the toys and stepped away from the children. Amanda spun around, eyes wild. "How did you find us? How did you?" Her gaze dropped to the stuffed animals and realization hit. "You tracked us," she hissed. "You spied on us?" She yanked at the toys, trying to rip them apart. "Now," David shouted. Officers lunged, grabbing her arms. I ran to my twins, and they threw themselves into my arms, sobbing. I held them tight, breathing in their warmth, feeling their hearts race against mine. "It's okay," I whispered. "Mommy's here." As the officers dragged Amanda away, she screamed about betrayal and tracking devices. The toys lay forgotten on the floor, their hidden trackers having done their job. My children were safe. That's all that mattered. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 3 months had passed since that night at the lake house. The legal case moved quickly, especially after David's team found out everything Amanda had planned. Her phone was full of fake photos, false social media posts, and a journal explaining how she would take the twins. Today, I sit in a courthouse waiting room, my hands clasped tightly. The twins are safe at school, slowly healing with the help of their therapist. They still sleep with their stuffed animals, knowing the trackers inside will always help me find them if needed. David walks up beside me. "The judge is ready," he says. He has been my support through everything, even while dealing with his own feelings about his sister. Inside the courtroom, Amanda sits at the defendant's table, looking smaller than before. She no longer seems angry, just tired and defeated. Her lawyer told her to take a plea deal since the evidence against her was overwhelming. The judge clears her throat. "Before I give my decision, does the defendant have anything to say?" Amanda stands slowly, her hands shaking as she holds a piece of paper. I thought I was protecting them," she says in a quiet voice. "After Mark died, I was so scared of losing anyone else. I convinced myself that Sarah was dangerous, that the twins needed me more. I let my grief turn into something terrible." She turns to me, tears running down her face. I'm sorry. I see now that I was wrong. They need a real mother, not an aunt who lost herself in grief. The judge listens carefully before speaking. Amanda Peters, this court sentences you to 3 years of probation, psychiatric treatment, and a restraining order preventing contact with Sarah Mitchell and her children. You will also complete 500 hours of community service at a grief counseling center. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It's over. Outside, David walks up to me. She's agreed to stay in a treatment center, he says. Doctors think therapy will help her deal with her grief in a better way. I hope it helps, I reply, surprised that I truly mean it. Mark would have wanted that. That evening, I pick up the twins from school. They chat about their day, their past trauma slowly fading. But I know they still carry scars. Lily checks her toys tracker every night, and Lucas keeps a bag packed just in case. Mommy, Lily asks as we pull into the driveway, is Aunt Amanda still sick? I choose my words carefully. She's getting help to feel better. Sometimes when people are very sad, they make bad choices that hurt others. But that doesn't make it okay. Will we see her again? Lucas asks, holding his stuffed elephant. Not for a long time, sweetheart, but that's not your fault. None of this was your fault. Inside, as I help with homework and dinner, I notice signs of healing. Lily laughs more, and Lucas doesn't flinch at loud noises anymore. The GPS trackers in their toys have become less about safety and more about comfort, reminders that they are always connected to me. Later that night, after tucking them in, I pull out an old photo album. There's Amanda with Mark at his college graduation, both smiling, unaware of the pain ahead. I understand her grief. Losing Mark broke all of us. But while she let it control her, I chose to keep living for the twins. My phone buzzes with a message from David. Amanda is settling into the treatment center. She asked if she could write letters to the twins someday. No pressure, just something to think about. I close the album, thinking about forgiveness. Maybe one day, when the twins are older and Amanda has healed, we can rebuild something. Not the same as before, but something honest. For now, my focus is on my children. The GPS trackers will stay as long as they need them, a small piece of technology that saved them when nothing else could. Before bed, I check on them one last time. They've pushed their beds closer together, their stuffed animals lined up between them. In the soft nightlight, I almost see Mark's smile on their sleeping faces. We're safe now, I whisper, more to myself than to them. That's all that matters. On my phone screen, the GPS dots blink steadily, 2 small points of light that mark home, love, and an unbreakable bond. Amanda didn't understand. Some love can't be stolen, and some mothers will always find their way back to their children, no matter what. I'm pregnant, and it's James's baby, my sister Amanda announced loudly, silencing the guests at my engagement party. I froze, my champagne glass still in my hand. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood there in a blue dress, one hand on her stomach. Beside me, James turned pale, his grip on my waist loosening. My name is Olivia Parker. I'm 28 years old, and in that moment, I watched my perfect life fall apart. The fairy lights we had hung earlier now felt like they were mocking me. It's been happening for months, Amanda continued, crying. We never wanted to hurt you, but we're in love. People turned to me, waiting for a big reaction, but I stayed quiet. I had learned long ago that silence could be more powerful than words. Olivia, sweetheart, my mom said, stepping forward. We need to talk about this as a family. Amanda is going through a hard time. Of course she was. Amanda was always the one needing understanding. When she crashed my car, when she maxed out my credit card, when she ruined my graduation dress. And every time, I was expected to forgive her. She's your sister, my dad added. But his concern was for Amanda, not me. She was now crying into James's chest. My fiancé, the man I had trusted. Calmly, I placed my glass on the table. Excuse me, I said and walked toward the house. Olivia, wait. My mom followed me into the kitchen. You can't just leave. Amanda is pregnant. This changes everything. I looked at her, my voice steady. You're right, it does. She sighed in relief. Then you understand. We need to support Amanda. She's fragile. I almost laughed. Even now, it was all about Amanda. I understand, I said, picking up my car keys. Where are you going? She asked in panic. We need to talk. Amanda has you, I replied. She always has. As I walked to my car, James called my name. I didn't turn around. I didn't cry. I didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I drove to the one place I knew I could think clearly, my grandmother's cottage by the lake. What no one knew was that I had suspected this for weeks. James's secret texts, his unexplained meetings, Amanda's sudden illnesses, it all made sense. But I hadn't just suspected. I had prepared. 2 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator. 1 week ago, I moved my important belongings into a safety deposit box. 3 days ago, I started removing James from our joint accounts, and yesterday, I convinced him to take a DNA test, pretending it was for insurance. Sitting on my grandmother's porch, I ignored the flood of messages from James, Amanda, and my parents. Instead, I called the one person who had never believed Amanda's lies, my Aunt Sarah. I saw Amanda's little show on Facebook Live, she said. She always loved drama. She says she's pregnant, I told her. So she says, Aunt Sarah replied. But you didn't call me just to cry, did you? No, I said, sitting up straighter. I need your help. Does it involve making Amanda and James regret this? It might. I'm in, she said. What's the plan? For the first time that night, I smiled. First, we wait for the DNA results. Then, we show them what real family loyalty looks like. That night, as I lay in bed, my phone finally stopped buzzing. My family probably thought I was somewhere crying, waiting to forgive them. They thought they knew me, the quiet, responsible one who always put family first. But they have forgotten something. I was also my grandmother's granddaughter, and she had taught me that sometimes the quiet ones are the most dangerous. I opened her old journal, the one where she had written about handling betrayal and getting justice. Sometimes, dear, she had written, the best revenge is letting people think they've won, until they realize they've lost everything. I smiled. Amanda had chosen the moment to ruin my life, but I would choose the moment to reveal the truth. The DNA results would arrive in 2 months. Until then, I had work to do. The next 2 months tested my patience. I watched from a distance as Amanda and James played the happy couple, fully supported by my parents. Amanda even moved into my old apartment, the one I had shared with James, while I stayed at my grandmother's cottage, quietly putting my plan into action. They're telling everyone you had a breakdown. Aunt Sarah told me one morning over coffee. Amanda's acting like the caring sister, stepping in to support James while you recover. I calmly stirred my coffee. What else? They're having an engagement party next week. Your mother is calling it a celebration of new beginnings. Aunt Sarah rolled her eyes. Linda's pretending you never existed. That was my mother's specialty, rewriting history. Now she'd have turned me into the unstable one, while Amanda was the responsible sister creating a happy family. If only they knew what I had found. The private investigator's report had everything: hotel security footage, time-stamped photos, credit card statements, but the most important detail, medical records that would soon change everything. Are you sure about this? Aunt Sarah asked as I looked over the documents. Once you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your parents was over the moment they chose Amanda's lies, I said. Again, my phone buzzed. A notification from the lab. The DNA results were ready. The timing was perfect. Tonight was Amanda and James's engagement party, hosted by my parents at their country club. The same place where, 3 months ago, James had proposed to me. Ready? Aunt Sarah asked as we parked outside. I smoothed my black dress. Power, not warning. Absolutely. Even from the entrance, I could hear the party. Amanda's laugh rang out, and my mother's voice proudly introduced her expecting daughter and future son-in-law. Then silence. Olivia, my mother said, forcing a smile. This is a private party. I won't stay long, I said. I just came to share some news. Amanda stepped forward, her hand protectively over her growing belly. Haven't you caused enough drama? We're trying to celebrate. I smiled, remembering my grandmother's advice. Let them think they've won. I actually brought a gift. I pulled an envelope from my purse. James's DNA test results. James, who had been standing stiffly since I arrived, went pale. That was for insurance, he stammered. It's private. Oh, but family matters should be discussed openly, I said, using my mother's favorite phrase. Right, Mom? My father stepped in, his face angry. That's enough, Olivia. You're making a scene. No, I said quietly. Amanda made a scene at my engagement party. I'm just finishing it. I opened the envelope slowly. These results show something interesting. Something that makes it impossible for James to be your baby's father. Amanda's face drained of color. Behind her, James looked confused, then shocked, then furious as the truth hit him. You're lying, Amanda whispered. Science doesn't lie, I said. But you do. About the pregnancy. About James. About everything. Amanda. James's voice was hoarse. What is she talking about? I pulled out another document. The investigator found your medical records. You had fertility treatments 3 months ago with your ex-boyfriend, Michael. The one you've been secretly seeing. Gasps and whispers filled the room. My mother swayed, reaching for support. The timing is perfect, I continued. You got pregnant right after James and I announced our engagement, and since Michael left you, I let the meaning sink in. You planned this? James asked Amanda, his voice rising. All of it. Tears welled in Amanda's eyes, her usual move. I was desperate. Michael left, and I saw how happy you were with Olivia. I thought. You thought you could steal my fiancé, lie about the baby's father, and have our parents cover for you, I finished. And you were right. They did. I turned to my parents, who stood frozen. You didn't even question it, did you? You just believed Amanda, like always. We didn't know, my mother whispered. You didn't want to know, I corrected. You never do with her. The room had fallen completely silent. Even Amanda had stopped crying, realizing there was no way out. You knew all along? James asked, his voice shaky. I suspected, I said. Amanda's never been as clever as she thinks. And you've never been good at keeping secrets. Aunt Sarah stepped forward, her heels clicking on the polished floor. I think she said loudly, this party is over. James stormed out. Amanda sobbed. My parents stood helplessly, trying to salvage what was left. No one looked at me. Grandmother would be proud, Aunt Sarah said as we walked to the car. I thought of her journal, her lessons on patience and justice. Yes, I agreed, she would. But this wasn't over. The DNA test and medical records were just the beginning. There were more truths to reveal, more lessons to be taught. Amanda had always been the star of our family's show, but now I was in control of the final act. The fallout from the country club revelation was more satisfying than I had imagined. Within days, Amanda's carefully built world fell apart. James moved out of our old apartment immediately, leaving Amanda alone with her lies. Her ex-boyfriend, Michael, the real father of her baby, wanted nothing to do with her. And my parents? They finally had to face the consequences of their choices. One day, my mother found me at the grocery store. She's not eating, she said. She needs her sister. I kept picking apples, not looking up. No, what she needs is to face the truth. Something you never made her do. We made mistakes, she admitted, her voice shaking. But she's still your sister. I finally met her gaze. And I was still your daughter every time you chose her over me. Then came another revelation, this one from Aunt Sarah. Over dinner, she shared what she had discovered. Your father has been paying Amanda's credit card bills for years, she said, including the hotels where she met Michael while you and James were engaged. I shouldn't have been surprised, but it still hurt. So they knew. They suspected, Aunt Sarah corrected. But questioning Amanda was never their way. I thought about all the times I had worked extra hours to pay for college, while Amanda's expenses were always covered without question. It was clear now, they hadn't just enabled her behavior, they had funded it. 3 weeks after the engagement party, I got an unexpected visitor. James stood on my grandmother's porch, looking exhausted and ashamed. I'm not here to apologize, he said quickly. I mean, I am sorry, but I know it doesn't change anything. Then why are you here? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit I used to love. I'm leaving town. Taking that job in Seattle. I needed you to know that you were right. About everything. I leaned against the doorframe. Not everything. I thought you loved me. His flinch said it all. After he left, I sat on the porch swing where grandmother used to tell me stories. Her journal lay open in my lap, and one passage stood out. The greatest victory isn't in destroying those who hurt you, but in rebuilding yourself stronger than before. Then came the final twist, one that changed everything. One morning, Aunt Sarah arrived with a stack of legal papers. I found these in Mother's safety deposit box, she said, spreading them on the table. Looks like grandmother left you more than just the cottage. The documents revealed a trust fund in my name, one meant to help with my wedding and a future home. She had also kept records of every dollar my parents had taken from her to cover Amanda's expenses over the years. There's a letter for you, Aunt Sarah added, handing me an envelope. In grandmother's neat handwriting, it read, "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, they finally pushed you too far. Use these documents wisely. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people face the consequences of their own actions." I followed her advice. My lawyer sent copies of the financial records to my parents with a simple note. The truth has a way of revealing itself. 2 days later, Amanda moved back home, her perfect future in ruins. My parents could no longer deny what they had done. "What do you want from us?" my father asked over the phone, his voice heavy with defeat. "Nothing," I said honestly. "I don't want anything from you anymore." That was the real victory, not punishing them, but freeing myself. 6 months later, I sold my share of the family property. Amanda tried to fight it, but the documents were airtight. I used the money to buy a small bookstore near the cottage, something I had always dreamed of but never pursued because my parents wanted me to be practical. Aunt Sarah helped me renovate, and on opening day she gave me a special gift. Grandmother's journal, rebound in leather with a new inscription. For Olivia, who learned that the quietest voice often speaks the loudest truth. I keep the DNA test results in my desk drawer, not as a reminder of betrayal, but as proof of my strength. Amanda still lives with our parents, her baby due any day now. I hear things about them sometimes, but their drama no longer touches me. Last week, I got a wedding invitation from James. He's marrying someone new in Seattle. I sent it back unopened. Some chapters are better left closed. Now, as I sit on the cottage porch watching the sunset over the lake, I finally understand what grandmother meant about victory. It's not about winning the fight, it's about choosing your own path forward. Amanda's betrayal didn't break me. It set me free, and that is the best revenge of all. I held the manila envelope tightly, my hands shaking. Inside were photos and recordings, proof of months of lies and manipulation. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting shadows over the evidence that would protect me and my daughter. My name is Elena Martinez, and I was ready to fight. It started small. My mother-in-law, Victoria Sinclair, was a powerful woman, wealthy, well-connected, and convinced she knew best about everything, especially raising a child. My daughter, Sophia, was only 3, smart, curious, and my whole world. But to Victoria, she was just another prize to control. At first, it was little things, comments about my parenting, disguised as concern. "She needs more structure. Are you sure she's eating well?" Each word chipped away at my confidence. My husband, Michael, was caught in the middle. He loved me, but he also loved his mother, unable to see her manipulation. She never accepted me, a woman from a working-class family who had married into her prestigious name. But I wasn't going to let her win. One autumn morning, I got a call from Dr. Emily Roberts, a child psychologist I had spoken to before. Her voice was tense. "Elena, be careful. Someone's asking questions about Sophia. Your parenting, your past. They're trying to build a case against you." My heart stopped. I knew exactly who was behind it. I started collecting proof. Hidden cameras, voice recordings, notes of every conversation with Victoria. I found out she was working with a corrupt social worker to make me look like an unfit mother. Her goal? Take Sophia away from me. But she underestimated me. Growing up with a single mother, I had learned to be strong. I had studied law part-time and knew how to protect myself. I gathered every piece of evidence, recordings of Victoria's plans, messages proving her scheme, even bank transfers to the social worker. Michael refused to believe it. "She just wants what's best for Sophia," he said. But I knew the truth. The night before I made my move, I sat in my office, surrounded by files and evidence. Sophia slept peacefully in the next room. I looked at a picture of my mother, a woman who had fought for me my whole life. I wouldn't let Victoria take my child. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "We need to talk about Sophia's future." I smiled. Oh, we would. Everything was ready. The trap was set, and Victoria had no idea what was coming. The morning arrived with a calculated precision. I dressed carefully, choosing a blazer that subtly concealed the digital recorder tucked inside. Every movement was deliberate, every detail planned. Victoria had requested a family meeting at her expansive estate, a tactical error she would soon regret. The grand living room, with its antique furniture and crystal chandeliers, had always been her battlefield. Today, it would become her downfall. Michael drove, seemingly unaware of the tension brewing beneath the surface. Sophia sat in her car seat, humming a cheerful melody, oblivious to the storm about to break. "Are you okay?" Michael asked, catching my distant gaze. I offered a calm smile. "Everything will be fine." The Sinclair estate loomed before us, a monument to generational wealth and hidden secrets. Victoria stood at the entrance, her perfectly tailored suit a armor of social expectation. "Welcome," she said, her smile never reaching her eyes. The initial pleasantries were a dance of calculated politeness. Victoria's gaze constantly drifted to Sophia, possessive and calculating. I watched her, recording every micro-expression. "I've been concerned about Sophia's development," Victoria began, her tone dripping with manufactured concern. "Perhaps it's time we discuss her future more seriously." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I remained silent, letting her continue. "Rope her in, let her reveal her hand." Victoria produced a folder, meticulously prepared documents suggesting my inadequacy as a mother, fabricated reports from a social worker, carefully worded medical assessments, financial analysis questioning my capability to provide. "I've consulted with experts," she said, spreading the documents. "I believe Sophia would be better served with more stable guardianship." Michael looked shocked. "Mom, you can't be serious." But I saw the plan now. Complete. Calculated. A surgical attempt to strip me of my daughter. What Victoria didn't know was that every document she just presented was already documented. Every conversation recorded. Every meeting with the corrupt social worker mapped out in explicit detail. I reached into my bag, pulling out my own meticulously organized file. "Shall we discuss your definition of stability?" I said quietly. The next hour was a masterclass in strategic dismantling. Bank transfers to the social worker, recorded conversations discussing their plan, explicit evidence of attempted manipulation of legal systems. Victoria's composure began to crack. Her perfectly manicured facade started to crumble, piece by deliberate piece. Michael sat in stunned silence, watching as his mother's elaborate scheme unraveled. "You've been planning to take my child," he whispered, the betrayal cutting deeper than any physical wound. Victoria tried to recover, to spin a narrative of maternal protection, but the evidence was overwhelming, not just circumstantial, but hard, irrefutable proof. "I was trying to protect her," Victoria insisted, her voice losing its earlier confidence. "From what?" I asked coldly. "From a mother who loves her, who has dedicated her entire life to her child's well-being." Sophia played quietly, building a tower of blocks, unaware that her entire world was being dissected around her. The confrontation wasn't just about winning. It was about exposing a generational pattern of control, of manipulation disguised as concern. Michael finally saw his mother for what she truly was. Not a protective grandmother, but a calculated manipulator willing to destroy a family to maintain control. "I want a DNA test," Victoria suddenly demanded. "Prove she's even Michael's daughter." The room went silent. I smiled. A cold, calculated smile that made Victoria take a step back. "Are you certain," I said softly, "that you want to pursue that line of questioning?" The threat was clear. Family secrets have multiple layers, and I was prepared to unravel every single one. Victoria knew then. She had miscalculated completely. The meeting ended not with her victory, but with her retreat. Defeated. Exposed. As we left, Sophia still happily unaware, Michael turned to me. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Everything," I replied. "Always." The drive home was quiet, but it was the quiet of a battle won, of a family recalibrated, of boundaries firmly established. Sophia continued humming in her car seat. Innocent. Protected. Victoria had plotted to steal my child. She had no idea what I had planned. And this was just the beginning. The aftermath was not immediate, but methodical. Like a carefully orchestrated symphony, the consequences of Victoria's actions began to unfold with precision. Within weeks, the social worker involved in her scheme was under investigation. His career, his reputation, everything he had built, crumbled under the weight of documented evidence. Bank records, recorded conversations, explicit proof of attempted child custody manipulation. Michael's relationship with his mother transformed dramatically. The illusion of familial perfection shattered, replaced by a cold, calculated distance. He had discovered that protection sometimes means cutting out toxic influences, even when they share your blood. "I can't believe she would go this far," Michael said one evening, watching Sophia play in the living room. "All these years I thought she was just concerned." I understood his pain. Discovering the true nature of a parent is never easy. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Victoria's attempt to challenge our custody was dead on arrival. Her reputation in the social circles she had so carefully cultivated began to crumble. Whispers replaced her once loud proclamations of family superiority. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about protection. My own network of support, professional contacts, legal advisors, even family friends, stood firmly behind me. They had witnessed Victoria's pattern of manipulation, her belief that wealth could solve everything. Sophia remained blissfully unaware. To her, life continued as always, filled with love, security, and endless possibilities. 3 months after the confrontation, an unexpected letter arrived. Handwritten. From Victoria. I read it carefully, my fingers tracing the elegant script. A request for mediation. A desire to understand, to potentially rebuild. Michael looked at me, uncertainty in his eyes. "What do you want to do?" I thought about my own mother, about generational healing, about the difference between protection and perpetual conflict. "We'll listen," I said, "but on our terms." The mediation was carefully structured, controlled environment, limited interaction, professional mediator present, every detail calculated to ensure Sophia's emotional safety. Victoria arrived looking diminished, the powerful matriarch reduced to a woman confronting her own limitations. "I was wrong," she said, the words seemingly difficult to articulate. "I thought I was protecting the family, protecting Sophia. Protection isn't manipulation." I responded quietly. "Protection is love without conditions." Michael watched, silent. Processing. Healing. The mediator guided our conversation, not towards reconciliation, but understanding. Establishing clear boundaries. Defining what a relationship might look like, if it could exist at all. No unsupervised contact. Transparent communication. Respect for our family's autonomy. Victoria agreed. Not happily, but definitively. As we left, Sophia holding both our hands, I realized something profound. Victory wasn't about destroying Victoria. It was about creating a safe, healthy environment for our daughter. The legal documents were filed. The evidence preserved. A testament to a mother's determination to protect her child. Months passed. Life found its rhythm. Michael's architectural firm grew. I continued my work. Sophia thrived, curious, confident, loved. And Victoria, she remained on the periphery, allowed minimal, supervised contact. A grandmother reduced to careful, controlled interactions. 1 year after that fateful confrontation, I found Michael looking through old family photographs. "Do you regret how things turned out?" I asked. He looked at me, then at Sophia playing nearby. "No," he said firmly. "I regret not seeing the truth sooner." Healing isn't linear. It's a journey of understanding, of setting boundaries, of choosing love over manipulation. Victoria had plotted to steal my child. She had no idea what I had planned. And in the end, the only thing stolen was her power to control us. Family isn't about blood. It's about protection. About love. About choice. And we had chosen our path. Clearly, definitively, unapologetically.